What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today I got another great video for y'all. Today we're going to do cost per mile. Now, as you can see in the thumbnail, we did Amazon versus OTR. So what I'm going to do is do the cost per mile for Amazon and the cost per mile for OTR. Okay? The reason I'm doing this video is a lot of people ask, which one is better. It's not necessarily that which one is better. It's just all about your preferences, because you're not going to get rich on either one of them. Okay, they're pretty much neck to neck on what you're going to make. Now, I see a lot of people, get excited when they say, well, you can make 8,000 a week, 9,000 a week, 7,000 a week doing OTR. And most people be making with Amazon locally when they're just, just doing minimal miles, be more closer to 3,500, 4,000, 4,500. More people can make more. People do make more, but on average, about $3,500, $4,000. So difference is though, is the net. All right. Now your gross may be high, but it's all about what you're bringing home. So that's what we're going to do today, and hopefully in this video, it'll help you be able to come up with your rate per mile, which you'll know what you need to have in order to run your truck. And again, like on the last video, if anybody interested in this Google slide, just let me know. I can email it to you, because right now I have it in the PDF form, but I have it as a Google spreadsheet. So when you put your numbers in, it actually calculate it for you. So if you're interested in that, just email me. Yeah. So without further ado, we're gonna get straight into it. All right. Now, OTR. We're gonna start with the OTR. All right. Now, this right here, I base this based upon your weekly expenses. Now, however you do or you calculate your cost per mile, I've seen a lot of people do it differently. People do it by the month, people do it yearly or whatnot. Right now, I'm gonna do it by the week, because a lot of people are trying to figure out what they're gonna make weekly. So we did this by the week. And I also did this based upon you leasing a truck, because a lot of people don't have the capital to go out there and straight buy a truck. So we're gonna base this off of you leasing and renting a truck. All right. Before we get started, we have to understand our two expenses. Our two expenses is going to be your fixed cost and your variable cost. Your fixed cost will never change. Your variable cost will change based upon the amount of miles, where you travel, where you're going, or whatnot. So our fixed cost, like I said, we're starting with a rental or leasing company. This right here will be different for those who own their truck. All right. So for all y'all that own your truck, you'll just calculate your numbers a little different. These for all my people that's coming in the game, and most of the people are trying to lease or rent a truck or whatnot. Now, once again, these are generic numbers. These aren't the numbers I pay or whatnot. These are just around the table generic numbers. All right. Now, fixed costs. Your rental payment. Your rental payment on average is going to be $496. Whether you go with Enterprise, Penske, or Ryder or Budget, is going to be on average about $500 a week. Your insurance on average is about $1,500 a month. So that is about $375 a week. Your phone bill is going to be about on average $120 a month. It's going to be about $30 a week. As well as load boards, because most of us that's doing OTR, we're working off of a load board. So a lot of us have load board fees. So on average, you'll pay about $20 a week. It could be cheaper, it could be more. You just adjust it based upon your situation. All right. And then because we're traveling over the road, you have to have an ELD. So once again, I heard people paying $20 a month, $30 a month, $60, $80 a month. So I just did a worst case scenario and say that you're paying $60 a month. So that'd be $15 a week. All right. So that comes out to be a weekly fixed cost at $936. All right. Now we move over to our variable cost. Once again, we got to remember we're doing a weekly mile on OTR of 3,000 miles. So this is based upon 3,000 miles. So now we're going to get into our variable cost, because our variable cost is always dictated based upon the amount of miles that we're doing. All right, because that's why it changes. All right, so the miles we driven for that week was 3,000 miles, and that's going to be the average of what you want to do when you're doing OTR, about 3,000 miles. All right. So with the mile surcharge, you have a mile surcharge when you're leasing or renting from a rental company, from Enterprise, Budget, or whatnot. You have a mile surcharge, and the average going around right now is 20 cents. Now, like I said, these aren't aren't the prices that I'm paying. I'm just doing a generic number. And these might not be the prices you're paying. It may be higher, it may be lower. All right, you just adjust it based upon you. Okay, so the mile surcharge is going to be 20 cents a mile. So we did 3,000 miles. At 3,000 miles times 20 cents will give you $600. All right, now fuel is pretty much dictated based upon your truck, but we're going to do an average. I did an average. So the average I did was, for instance, a lot of trucks have 250-gallon tanks, or they have 170-gallon tank. So I just did the average, the in-between number, so the medium number. So I did 70 gallons. So if I was to drive 3,000 miles off a 70-gallon tank, now 70-gallon tanks normally give you between 400 to 500 miles, somewhere between there. Now we're gonna do worst case scenario. So I did 400 miles. So once again, once you put your numbers in, this may change. So these are just generic numbers. So don't get on me in the comment section about these numbers. These are just generic numbers for those coming into what you need to look forward to have to pay when you get into this game. Okay, now back to it, the fuel. So if I know that I get 400 miles off of fuel, if I know that I get 400 miles off a full tank of diesel at 70 gallons, and right now the price of diesel is $5. So if I have to fill my entire tank at $5 a gallon, that'll be $350. So what I do is I say that my tank gets me 400 miles. I have to travel 3,000 miles. So 4 times the 7 times I would have to fill up, which would be 7 times 4, which would be 2,800. I multiply that 7 by the amount of money I had to spend each time I had to fill my tank. So each time I had to fill my tank, it cost me $350. So I had to fill my tank 7 times. So I do 350 times the 7 times I had to fill my tank, which came out to $2,450. So that's how I came out with the fuel to get an average, a generic average of what it would cost me to run my truck the whole week doing 3,000 miles. Okay, now we got lodging. A lot of people decide to sleep in their truck, a lot of people don't. Now we're just going to do an average. If you're out there for 5 to 6 days and you have to stay in a hotel for at least 3 to 4 days out that week, on average you're going to pay about $250. You have to feed yourself, so you're going to be paying close to about $200 in a week to feed yourself. Now we got our dispatching fees. Now with dispatching, I've seen people paying between like 6 and 10%, but I'm gonna give y'all the worst case scenario. Like I said, I'm just gonna give you the worst case scenario. Some people are higher, some people are lower or whatnot. So 10% of the $7,000 you made, because once again, our profit, I'm sorry, I don't think I said that in the beginning, but our profit for that week was $7,000. Okay, our profit for that week was $7,000. We drove 3,000 miles and we made $7,000. Okay, so if I didn't announce that in the beginning, I'm sorry. All right, so this is based upon the mileage and the profit. Now, our profit was $7,000. Now, if we were to get a dispatcher fee from a dispatcher, we had a dispatcher to find us all those loads, that'd be 10% of that. So that'd be $700 for the week. Our factoring on average between 2 and 4%. So we did somewhere in between. So we did 3%. 3% of factoring of that $7,000 would be $210. If we was to add all our variable costs up together, it'd be $4,410. All right. So we'll go back and we'll look at our weekly miles. Our weekly miles was 3,000 miles. Our fixed cost per mile is the fixed cost, which was 936, divided by the total miles, which was 9,000, came out to 31 cents a mile. So our fixed cost per mile was 31 cents a mile. And we'll do that to this. We'll do the same thing in the next formula. Take our variable cost, which was 4,410, and divide that by the total miles. And the total miles was 3,000. So that came out to $1.47 a mile. So our variable cost per mile was $1.40 a mile. So our total expenses, which was fixed costs plus our variable expenses, was $5,346 for the week. All right. Now we'll look at our weekly revenue. So then you'll look at the load board. You'll say, oh, cool, I got a load for $1,500. I got a load for $1,350. Another load for $2,500. Another load for $1,650 or whatnot. And that totals out to, up $7,000. So you looking at the $7,000 like, man, that's a great number. But once again, we got to subtract that from our fixed and variable costs. So we do that by looking at our profit revenue subtract that total expenses, which come out to be $1,654. So our profit per mile, which would be $1,654 divided by the total miles, came out to be 55 cents. So our break-even rate per mile, which is be our revenue divided by the total miles, came out to $2.33. This right here shows you the lowest rate you can take in order for you to break even on your truck. All right. So this formula right here is a great formula to break down and see what it's going to cost you to run your truck. And these numbers essentially don't change, definitely for your fixed costs and whatnot. So as you can see, you worked an entire week, you know, 4 to 6 days or whatnot. You're on the road. You profited $1,654. Now I want you to keep this in mind. Now, for instance, if I'm here in Virginia and I drive 3,000 miles, but say if that 3,000 miles take me out to Alabama at the end of the week, yeah, I profited $1,654, but I'm also about 600 miles away from home. So I gotta make sure that I have a strategic plan on making sure that I can keep that same profit as well as make that money on my way back home towards home, because it's all about the deadhead as well. All right, now we done broke down the OTR. Now we're gonna break down Amazon. All right. Now, Amazon is going to be just a little different. But like I said, you're going to have your fixed cost that's not going to change. You're going to have your variable cost that's going to change based upon the amount of miles. Now, before I get started to tell you about this one, about Amazon, our miles we did for the week is 1,500 miles. Because on average with Amazon, you're going to do about 1,500 to 2,000 miles a week. Some people may do more if they're doing longer trips. But on average, definitely if you're leasing your truck, you're doing 1,500 miles a week. All right. So we got to consider that 1,500 miles a week with the profit, with the gross revenue of $3,500. So it's pretty much half of what OTR was. OTR was $7,000 in a week. Amazon is going to be more like $3,500 in a week. OTR was 3,000 miles you had to travel in a week. Amazon going to be more like 1,500 miles. All right. So make sure you take that into consideration when we look at the numbers. All right. Now we're going to go to the weekly expenses. We have our fixed costs. Once again, this is based upon the leasing and the rental program. All right. So our rental payment is going to be $496 a week. Our insurance, once again, is going to be $375 a week. Our phone bill is going to be $30 a week. Okay. Once again, as y'all can see down here, there's additional costs. Of course, you can fill in all of these things, but we're just doing a generic, just a flat generic based upon if you were just basing it off the truck. All right. So, boom, when we add that all up, that come out to $901 a week. Now, we go over here, we do the mile surcharge. Now, a mile surcharge is going to be the same, 20 cents based upon the amount of miles we travel. And we did 1,500 miles. So if I did 20 cents times 1,500, you come up with $300. All right. Now we're going to do the fuel. All right. Now with the fuel, we're going to apply the same formula we did with OTR. Now, understanding that we did the average on the gallons. We understand that most trucks have like either two 50-gallon tanks, like 100 gallons, or have a 70-gallon tank. So we just did the middle ground of 70 gallons. All right. So now 70 gallons will get us 400 miles. We went 1,500 miles with Amazon. So that means that we had to stop 3.5 times to fill the truck. All right. So diesel average price right now is $5. So $5 times the 70 gallons is $350. Times the 3.5 times we had to fill the tank, which came out to $1,225. Now, like I said, a disclaimer, these aren't my numbers. I don't pay that a week for my truck. I almost pay that for both my trucks a week. But I'm just gonna be honest with the formula without. I'm just gonna do just a basis of what it could possibly be without. All right. Now, because we're not traveling and we're going home every night, we're not going far. We don't have no lodging fee, as well as, we can bring food from the house. We really don't have a food expense, as well as because you're picking off the load board, you don't have any dispatching fee, as well as no factory fee because you get paid straight from Amazon. All right. So when we add up the variable cost, that comes out to $1,525. All right. Now, once again, we're going to reflect back to our weekly miles. We drove 1,500 weekly miles. All right. Now we take that fixed cost divided by the total miles. So that fixed cost was $901. And if we would divide that by Now we take that fixed cost and we was to divide that by the total miles, which was 1,500 miles. You get 60 cent per mile is what your fixed cost per mile is, 60 cent per mile. Now we'll do the same thing with your variable cost per mile. We'll take the variable cost divided by the total miles. The variable cost was $1,525. We divide that by your total miles, which was 1,500. That came out to be $1.02. So your variable cost per mile came out to be $1.02. So your total expenses, fixed cost plus your variable cost, was 2,426 miles. All right. Now, weekly revenue, as you can see, you're going to, of course, most likely run 1 or 2 days more than you're doing OTR. But once again, you're still not working no more than 2-3 hours a day. So if we was to break that down by in a 5-day week of you running, it'd be about on average $700 a day, because that's what I make in my truck, between $500 and $1,000 a day. So I just did the middle ground of $700. So if you make on the average $700 a day, that'd be $3,500 a week. Now we'll look at our profit. So we'll have to take the profit, the revenue, subtract the total expenses, which will be our actual profit. So our profit would be $1,074. So our profit per mile was 72 cents per mile. Now, this is a great formula because it'll tell you what you are able to take a load for without losing. So your break-even rate would be $2.33. So you know that you cannot take a load no less than $2.33. But the thing is, I know you can see that the cost difference, the profit difference is about, I think it's about about $500-$600 cost. But the difference is, what makes Amazon a little different is that you're not away from home. You're at home, so you're not thinking about backtracking back home. So that Friday, instead of you being in Alabama, you're still in Virginia. So that's the difference. So you just have to weigh out what you want out of your trucking business, and that's just the difference. So utilizing that formula would definitely help you come up with your cost per mile, so that you would make sure that you're not out here grabbing any crap rates or whatnot. So yeah, guys, I really hope that helped out and clarified some of the questions that I was getting in the comments of how do you calculate your net? How do you know what you're really making out there? So if you utilize this formula, you cannot lose. All right, like I said, these are just some generic numbers. It's nothing to bash OTR. It's not to say that one is better than the other. I'm just saying that you're not going to just get rich off of either one of those. One of them is a trade-off. All right, so yeah, guys, I appreciate y'all time. It was another great video, and see y'all soon. Peace.